Heritage. It's a distinct honor to be with you here as the Master of Ceremonies. Mon nom est Arif Virani, je suis le secrétaire parlementaire pour le ministre du Département canadien et je serai votre MC. Last May, I was very pleased to be part of an announcement that the Government of Canada had taken a major step in the development of the memorial to the victims of communism, Canada, a land of refuge. It's a monument that means so much to so many communities here in Canada, be it the Polish community, Ukrainians, Hungarians, Koreans, Vietnamese, Baltics, the list goes on and on. These are all communities that have sought refuge in this country. In May, we announced the winning design, Team RAF's Arc of Memory, which was recommended by an expert jury panel. Today I'm very glad that you can all join us for the site dedication ceremony inside. Mother Nature hasn't cooperated with us so well today, but at a tremendous ceremony nonetheless. We are very proud as the Government of Canada to be investing $1.5 million towards the creation of this very important memorial for Canada. And before we begin, I'd like to ask Elder Albert Dumont to perform the Indigenous blessing.
Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here today. I want to say that we should be forever mindful to be protective of.
Our next speaker will be a woman who I've come to know quite well. She's a tremendous colleague, she's a tremendous mentor, and she's a tremendous Minister of Canadian Heritage, the Honourable Mélanie Joly. Madame Joly.
So, great to see you all. Elder Dumont, Mr. Klimkowski, Ludwik, Monsieur Trim, Monsieur Friesen, Monsieur Harmston-Holloway, Kimberly, distingués invités, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We wish again for your blessing. I'm honored to be here with you right across the way where the Arc of Memory monument will be installed. This monument will be a moving tribute to the millions of victims of communist regimes around the world. It will also honor those who took refuge in our country following persecution and have made immense contribution to our society. Canada has been and remains a land of refuge for those seeking safety from persecution. And each individual has a story to tell. C'est notamment l'histoire de l'auteure canadienne d'origine vietnamienne Isaac Friesen. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Your testimony will help us better understand the harsh realities of life under a repressive regime and why it is so important for countries to, like ours of course, to remain a diverse, welcoming place for those in need. These journeys of resilience, perseverance, and courage stands as inspirations to us all. Indeed, this memorial will serve as a place for generations of Canadians to come together and learn about people like Kim Sweet, Peter Trim, and Isaac Friesen, and the millions other Canadians who count themselves as victims or descendants of victims of communist regions. Let us pay tribute to those who fled violence and persecution to make Canada their home and reaffirm our commitment to a society that respects human rights, fundamental freedoms, and democracy. This monument. We said we would be going forward 2 years ago. We worked thoroughly, very well with your team, and thank you for participating with us because this will be, of course, one of the landmarks of 2019 when it will be ready, because it will be ready in 2019. And not only that, I want to thank all of us gathered here because this will be a landmark that will continue for generations. And it talks about the importance of remembering our memory. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Ministre. C'était super de vous entendre. Now I'd like to turn the podium over to somebody who Madame Joly was prefacing a little bit. It's this idea that you don't get these tremendous projects without great partnerships with civil society groups and great advocates. And among those great advocates is the person sitting next to Madame Joly, Ludwik Klimkowski, a person who I also would call a friend, who's sometimes my Polish tutor. So I would say, Ludwik, for your advocacy, not just for Polonia, but for all Canadians who believe in this monument, dziękuję bardzo. Please come share some words with us. Yes.
Good morning, Honourable Minister Mélanie Joly, Excellencies, Members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends, bonjour tout le monde. I'm very confident that every immigrant or refugee who comes to our country believes that their life here would be better than the one left behind. We work really hard, very hard, to succeed and to become true members of a Canadian mosaic. And even when we struggle, we trust that the moment will come, no matter our accent when we speak, the color of our skin, the creed, the religion, or whatever, when we call, all of us call Canada our home. We always proudly say, Canada, we love you. And with passage of time, we watch our children and then grandchildren grow up and make this land even better, the one that we founded before. There's a moment in time where our children would ask, Papa, pourquoi nous sommes ici? Maman, pourquoi le Canada est notre pays? Why we live here? Now you can proudly answer. There's a place in the heart of our nation where our testimony is bravely told for 1,000 times. And we came together and we were able to mark our presence in Canadian heritage. We know the true North was never captured by communism, yet we feel the pain so vividly because nearly 1/4 of all Canadians were either held captive by communist chains or are the sons and daughters of those who were. I would like to recognize each and every one of you by name and thank you for your help, encouragement and being part of this journey. Clearly that's not possible today. However, let me just briefly acknowledge a few. Senator Linda Fram for a spark when it was needed the most. My dear friend Ambassador Ballard Oder, who made this national memorial a truly global symbol of remembrance. Senator Jonna Martin for my own personal awakening and a member of 516 Canadians and their souls who gave the life for peace and freedom that we continue to enjoy at all. And to Minister Mélanie Joly, Mélanie, for confirming that no matter who governs our country, there are common values of freedom, rule of law and justice that transcend above all and must be preserved for those who will come after us. Merci pour votre engagement émotionnel dans ce projet. I also need to recognize generosity of those small group of people. Without them, that project would not be possible. The people of Hungary, Linda Fram and Howard Sokolowski, Alice and Dolores Huculak, Ian Ignatowicz, Marta Ryry, James and Louise Temetry, Ludmila Temetry, for creating this lasting legacy, Latvian Relief Society of Canada, people of Estonia, people of Georgia, people of Latvia, people of Poland, people of Taiwan, And finally, Canadian Polish Congress and its president Władysław Lizon, Ukrainian Canadian Congress with Paul Gard, for being the true ambassadors of this project. In conclusion, I find this really gratifying that we commemorate the victims of communism on the eve of the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. The revolution that led to unspeakable horror and pain. And we must remember those who became the part of our Canadian heritage. And I quote, "From their unquiet graves, the victims of communism cried to heaven, not for vengeance, but for justice. We cannot give it to them, but we can give them and their families the assurance that they will not be forgotten by history, and that will be until it arrives in a higher court." My friends, communism has failed only because it was communism. The promise of utopia that led to hell on earth. This memorial, our national memorial to victims of communism, Canada and Land of Refuge, represents the tribute to Canada on its 150th birthday. This is our tribute to liberty. Thank you, and may God bless you.
Mr. Walter Friesen is here among us. He's a member of the Mennonite community, and I think what he can offer us is a bit of an aspect about what communism has done in terms of cultural and religious freedom around the world, and how Canada has served a role providing safe haven for people such as the Friesen family. Please, Mr. Friesen.
Mr. Joly, honored guests, I could not begin in the short time that we have this morning to talk about all of the awful horrors and stories that, as I grew up, I had to listen to. So I will keep it brief and personal. My father was born in what was then Russia and is now the Ukraine, about halfway between a city called Zaporozhye and a city called Odessa. The Mennonite community had moved to Russia at the invitation of Catherine the Great, and were largely in the late 1700s and were well established as farmers, as teachers, as industrialists, and contributed very considerably to the Russian economy. After the Russian Revolution, one thing I should add, the Mennonites are also a very close-knit Anabaptist community. So it's a very close-knit Christian community. After the Russian Revolution, the communists implemented a policy, I will say, and I'm convinced of that would strip people of all of the ability to survive. It was not in their interest that people would survive. The strategy removed all the leaders, all the teachers, and ministers, anybody that was in any kind of a leadership role was removed from the community. Generally never to be seen again. But that wasn't all. They then removed all the grain, seeds, horses, anything that could allow people to continue to eat and survive. My uncle, as a young boy, was given the job to go through the villages and count the dead and report on that, because the communist regional leaders had to report to Stalin on that. So there was a lot of very, very bad things going on. This memorial is very important to ensure that through the passage of time, these events are not forgotten, and that future generations will remember and never be able to forget the awful things that the communists have done. And the acts of communism continue to this day in those countries where communism is still alive. Canada is a wonderful country. And I'm very thankful that my ancestors, my father, was accepted as an immigrant in Canada as they fled the terrors of communism. Thank you.
Good morning, Minister Joly, honourable guests. Thank you for having me. I'm going to keep my comments very brief. I've been working as one of the principal designers on this project, and it's been my honor to be able to do that. I am here today on behalf of the Planning Partnership and Paul Raff of Paul Raff Studios. As a team, we are committed to design excellence. We are committed to creative visioning, and we're dedicated to placemaking. The Arc of Memory is intended to draw from the natural cycles of life, and it does so at all experiential scales of time. The great plinth of the limestone mat under the gleaming reflectivity of the bronze rods, one for each hour